Marco Antonio Barrera, one of the most iconic Mexican boxers of all time, rose to stardom with his relentless style, incredible skill, and legendary rivalry. Known as the Babyface Assassin, Barrera dominated the ring for over 2 decades, securing victories in multiple weight classes and earning the respect of fans and boxers alike. His career was defined by dramatic battle, especially his unforgettable trilogies with Erik Morales, and his clash with Manny Pacquiao, which showcased his technical brilliance and heart. However, Barrera's story goes beyond the punches and title. His journey in boxing was filled with personal sacrifices, challenges, and a lifestyle that balanced the glories of the ring with the realities of life outside it. This is the story of Marco Antonio Barrera's rise, his struggles, and his legacy, both inside and outside the boxing ring. Marco Antonio Barrera was born on January 17, 1974, in Mexico City, a place where boxing runs in the veins of its people. Raised in a working-class family, Barrera's father, a boxing enthusiast, introduced him to the sport at a very young age. His family's humble beginnings shaped Barrera's character. Instilling a sense of discipline and a drive to succeed, the streets of Mexico City were tough, and for Barrera, boxing presented a way out. At the age of 7, Barrera began training in earnest, showing a natural aptitude for the sport. His early days in boxing were marked by an unrelenting passion and determination to succeed, qualities that would define his career. His first exposure to the ring came through the amateur circuit, where he quickly made a name for himself. By the time Barrera reached his teens, he was already competing at a high level, amassing an impressive amateur record. It wasn't long before Barrera transitioned to professional boxing. At just 15 years old, he made his professional debut, and his rise was as rapid as it was inevitable. His early fights demonstrated his combination of sharp boxing skills and relentless aggression, which soon caught the attention of the Mexican boxing scene. Barrera wasn't just a fighter, he was a prospect with a future. His natural instincts and the guidance from his father helped shape his style. Barrera's early boxing career laid the foundation for what would become one of the most illustrious careers in the sport's history. Marco Antonio. Barrera's first professional fight came in 1989, when he was just 15 years old. At that time, he was an underdog, but his passion for boxing and the influence of his family pushed him to succeed. Barrera quickly made a name for himself with his skillful and aggressive style. In a sport filled with seasoned fighters, Barrera was a young star in the making. Barrera's breakthrough came when he captured the WBO super bantamweight title in 1995 by defeating the tough and experienced Kennedy McKinney. This victory was a turning point in Barrera's career. At just 21 years old, he had proven himself to be a force in the division, and this win set the stage for his future success. Barrera's first world title signified the beginning of a long and fruitful career in the sport, but it also placed a target on his back. He was no longer just a contender, he was a champion. The win against McKinney was a technical masterpiece. Barrera's ability to outsmart his opponents and his unwavering determination to win became trademarks of his style. What set Barrera apart from others was his combination of impeccable technique and fierce heart. He didn't just fight to win, he fought to entertain and make a statement. As he moved through the ranks, Barrera began to develop a more defined persona. He wasn't just a boxer, he was a fighter with charisma, energy, and passion. His ability to mix up his boxing strategy with flashes of aggression made him an exciting fighter to watch. By the late 1990s, Barrera was a rising star, and with each win, he continued to solidify his place in the history of Mexican boxing. No aspect of Marco Antonio Barrera's career would define his legacy more than his legendary rivalry with Erik Morales. The two Mexican fighters shared a fierce, competitive energy that led to one of the most iconic trilogies in boxing history. Their first fight in 2000 was a defining moment in Barrera's career, and it showcased his heart and ability to adapt. The first fight was a brutal and bloody encounter, with Barrera emerging victorious by a unanimous decision. It wasn't just the fight itself that captured the attention of boxing fans. It was the way Barrera handled the pressure of facing Morales, a fighter who was equally relentless and hungry for victory. Barrera's win over Morales solidified his place as one of boxing's top fighters and gave him the recognition he had worked so hard for. However, the second fight in 2002 saw a shift in the rivalry. Morales edged out Barrera in a close, hard-fought battle, avenging his loss in their first bout. The second fight was a testament to the incredible skill of both fighters, and it showed that their rivalry was far from over. Barrera and Morales were both at the peak of their careers, and the second encounter only deepened their competitive drive. The third and final fight between Barrera and Morales in 2004 was the ultimate showdown. Barrera, determined to reclaim his dominance, put on a masterful performance. He outboxed Morales over the course of 12 rounds, taking the victory and cementing his place as one of the best in the division. The trilogy between Barrera and Morales became one of boxing's most storied rivalries, and it showcased Barrera's resilience and adaptability in the face of adversity. For Barrera, the rivalry with Morales was more than just about titles and money. It was a personal battle, a contest for national pride, and a fight to prove who was the best. The rivalry pushed Barrera to his limits and helped solidify his status as one of the most respected and feared fighters in the world. Marco Antonio. Barrera's global ascent began with his victory over Naseem Hamed in 2001, which remains one of the most significant moments of his career. Hamed, a flashy, unorthodox fighter, had a reputation for his incredible speed and unpredictable style, but Barrera's technical brilliance and disciplined approach dismantled Hamed in a way few expected. The fight was a masterclass in boxing technique, where Barrera's jab, timing, and counterpunching skills neutralized Hamed's aggression and movement. Barrera's performance against Hamed not only earned him the WBC featherweight title, but also solidified his status as one of the premier boxers in the world. The win was particularly impressive because it was achieved against a fighter who was seen as one of the most talented in the division. Yet Barrera made him appear ordinary. The victory thrust Barrera into the international spotlight and firmly established him as a global boxing superstar. Following his win over Hamed, Barrera continued to dominate the featherweight division, taking on top contenders with ease. His ability to outsmart opponents, coupled with his relentless pressure, made him a fan favorite and an exciting fighter to walk. Barrera's reputation was built on his willingness to fight anyone, anywhere, and at any time. He didn't shy away from challenges. Instead, he embraced them, knowing that his skill and determination would carry him to victory. His fight with Hamed was just the beginning of his rise to global stardom, and soon Barrera would become one of the most respected and feared names in boxing. Barrera's star power wasn't just confined to the ring. He began attracting sponsorships, endorsement deals, and massive fan support. His personality and passion for boxing made him one of the most marketable boxers of his generation. Barrera became a beloved figure in Mexico, and his global appeal grew as he continued to win and entertain. His status as a national hero in Mexico elevated him to iconic status, and his fight nights became events that fans eagerly anticipated. In 2003, Marco Antonio Barrera faced one of the toughest challenges of his career, Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao, then a rising star from the Philippines, was gaining global recognition for his explosive speed and power. The fight was billed as a clash of two of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, but it quickly became evident that Barrera was outmatched in this encounter. Pacquiao, with his relentless pace and powerful left hand, overwhelmed Barrera from the opening bell. The fight ended with a technical knockout in the 11th round, marking a humbling loss for Barrera. It was a sharp contrast to the fighter who had been a dominant force in the featherweight division. The speed, aggression, and relentless pressure Pacquiao brought to the ring proved too much for Barrera, who found himself unable to keep up with the younger, faster fighter. The loss was a blow to Barrera's legacy, but it also served as a turning point in his career. After the fight, Barrera took time to reflect on his performance, acknowledging that he had been bested by a superior fighter. The loss to Pacquiao was painful, especially for Barrera, who had prided himself on being able to compete with the best. However, Barrera was never one to shy away from challenges. He vowed to come back stronger, and despite this defeat, he remained a respected name in boxing. The Pacquiao loss marked a change in Barrera's career. It was no longer about being the undisputed champion. It was about adjusting, evolving, and learning from his defeats. Though Barrera's reputation took a hit, he never lost his fighting spirit. His ability to bounce back from setbacks and continue competing at the highest level was a testament to his resilience and love for the sport. The Pacquiao loss would not define Barrera's career, but it would mark the beginning of the end of his time as the dominant force in the featherweight division. Despite the defeat to Pacquiao, Marco Antonio Barrera's career was far from over. He returned to the ring in 2004 with renewed determination and the desire to prove that he still had what it took to be a champion. His comeback was marked by a series of notable victories, including wins over fighters like Rocky Juarez and others who were viewed as obstacles to his return to prominence. Barrera's ability to continue competing with the best in the world, even in the later stages of his career, demonstrated his enduring skill and commitment to the sport. Barrera's boxing style began to evolve as he aged. The aggressive, pressure-fighting tactics that had defined his early career were tempered with more measured strategies, focusing on his technical skills and ring intelligence. He knew that his body could no longer take the same punishment, and he adapted accordingly, using his experience to outthink opponents rather than overpower them. However, despite the change in approach, Barrera found that the physical toll of boxing was catching up to him. His body, battered from years of grueling fights, was no longer as resilient as it once had been. Barrera's reflexes had slowed, and his stamina was not what it used to be. Still, his desire to compete and his love for boxing kept him in the ring. He continued to fight at a high level, taking on tough competitors, though the days of him being the dominant force in the division were behind him. The later years of Barrera's career also saw him grapple with the reality of aging in a sport that demands peak physical condition. His performances were no longer as dazzling as they once were, but his heart and determination never wavered. Barrera's later fights became more about legacy, and proving that even in his twilight years, he could still stand toe-to-toe with the best. His determination to keep fighting was a testament to his character, and although his body was beginning to betray him, his will to succeed remained as strong as ever. Marco Antonio Barrera's life outside the ring was often just as intense as his career inside it. While the Babyface Assassin was a beloved figure in Mexico and across the world, his personal life was filled with complexities that often went unnoticed by the public. Despite his tough, no-nonsense persona in the ring, Barrera was deeply devoted to his family. His upbringing in a working-class family, along with his strong ties to his Mexican roots, made Barrera appreciate the value of family, loyalty, and support. His family was central to his career, providing him with the grounding and stability he needed amidst the chaos of the boxing world. However, the pressures of being a world-class boxer took their toll. Barrera's personal life was often overshadowed by his professional commitments. The demands of training, traveling, and maintaining his status as a champion left little room for balance. As Barrera moved up the ranks and garnered more attention, he found that the sacrifices he made for his career sometimes affected his relationships. His intense focus on boxing, particularly during the peak years of his career, meant that he often spent significant time away from his family, leading to moments of personal strain. Barrera also struggled with the transition from being a reigning champion to adjusting to life after boxing. Like many retired athletes, he faced challenges with maintaining his identity outside of the ring. The end of his competitive career forced him to confront the reality of what his life would look like without the sport that had defined him for so long. At times, this led to moments of introspection, where Barrera questioned his future, his legacy, and his purpose beyond boxing. Despite his public image as a fierce competitor, Barrera's private struggles, particularly after his retirement, were marked by a search for fulfillment and purpose. Since retiring from boxing in 2011, Marco Antonio Barrera has remained a prominent figure in the sport, but his post-boxing life has been a period of adaptation and reinvention. The transition from fighter to civilian was difficult for Barrera, as it is for many athletes. Having spent most of his life in the spotlight, Barrera was no longer the undefeated champion, stepping into the ring for his next big fight. However, Barrera wasn't content to leave boxing entirely behind. Instead, he embraced new roles as a commentator, trainer, and promoter. Barrera's experience in the ring and his deep understanding of the sport made him a sought-after commentator. He lent his expertise to various boxing networks, providing insight and analysis on fights that gave fans a unique perspective on the sport. His candid and knowledgeable commentary was appreciated by boxing fans, and it allowed Barrera to remain connected to the sport he loved, even without being an active participant. Beyond commentary, Barrera also turned his attention to mentoring the next generation of fighters. He established his own boxing academy, where he could share his knowledge and help develop young talent. Barrera's gym became a place for aspiring boxers to learn from one of the best, and he became known for his commitment to shaping young athletes not just in the ring, but in life. Barrera's transition to a trainer allowed him to stay immersed in the sport while contributing to the future of boxing. Despite his continued involvement in boxing, Barrera found time to focus on his family and personal life. The intense focus on his career that had once kept him away from loved ones gave way to a more balanced existence. Spending time with his children and wife became a central part of his life, and Barrera often spoke about how important they were to him now that his career had concluded. He worked hard to make up for the years spent away, focusing on rebuilding relationships and living a more grounded life. Marco Antonio Barrera's legacy is one of undeniable greatness, not just for his accomplishments in the ring, but for the example he set as a fighter who never gave up, no matter the odds. His career is filled with unforgettable moments and iconic battles that will live on in the annals of boxing history. Barrera's rivalries, particularly with Erik Morales and Manny Pacquiao, are some of the greatest in the sport. His trilogy with Morales alone solidified his place as one of the sport's best, with their fierce battles becoming the stuff of legend. Barrera's victory over Naseem Hamed in 2001 marked one of the most impressive performances of his career and sent a message to the boxing world that he was a force to be reckoned with, transcending his weight class to become an international superstar. Beyond the championships and the accolades, Barrera's legacy lies in the way he fought with heart, determination, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. He was never the most naturally gifted fighter, but his work ethic and mental toughness made him a true champion. His victories were often the result of sheer willpower and an unyielding belief in his own abilities. Barrera's fighting style, marked by precision, technique, and an iron chin made him a fan favorite. He didn't just fight to win, he fought to entertain, to prove that he was among the best. Even in retirement, Barrera's impact is still felt in the boxing world. He remains an important figure in Mexican boxing, a role model for younger fighters, and a valuable voice in the sport. As a commentator and trainer, Barrera continues to shape the future of boxing, passing on his knowledge to the next generation of fighters. His influence extends far beyond his fighting day, and his name is synonymous with resilience, pride, and greatness. Marco Antonio Barrera may no longer be in the ring, but his legacy as one of boxing's all-time greats is secure. His story will continue to inspire future generations of fighters and boxing fans alike. Barrera's contributions to the sport are not just measured in titles, but in the impact he had on the lives of those who watched him fight. He will forever be remembered as one of the sport's most complete fighter, someone who left it all in the ring and gave fans memories that will last a lifetime.